All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you've missed the first half of the program. Now this is the second half. It's time for our discussion. We're looking at the housing market today, perhaps some of the challenges, and if you want to own a home, where should you start from? Dr. Banjo, Obaleye, the MD, that's the Managing Director at Infinity Trust Mortgage Bank, is joining me right now. Dr. Obaleye, good to see you. Long time no see. Where have you been? Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's so nice to have you.
Thank
How
you.
is Infinity Trust doing?
Oh, we're trying our best to getting by.
What does getting by mean? Because I know, I don't want to say that DMBs, normal commercial banks, they're not struggling, are they? Even with the removal of TSA funds from them and all of that, you see that their books are still in billions and billions, declaring profits when the economy is still trying to, get out of that fragile growth. But for PMBs, that's for primary mortgage banks, it's a bit different, isn't it? Why?
It's a bit difficult for us because our focus is on housing, and this is a biggest investment in every household expenditure item, and there's affordability problem. We can get enough by creating mortgages in big volume, but how many people can afford the mortgage? The cost of housing is expensive, the cost of mortgage is expensive, the cost of perfection is expensive. So it's a bit difficult for us to operate. And that's why I said we're getting by. You can see the report of DMBs, half-year reports. Many of them are declaring profit after tax in billions. But if you look at return on investments in mortgage sector, I think we are like under 10%, which technically is below the inflation rate. So there's nothing we can do to change this until we have enabling environment for mortgages. What do I mean by enabling environments? When mortgage become cheap, when we have mortgages at single interest rates, then when people can afford to buy homes, then we can be smiling to the bank.
For an average viewer that is watching us right now, would want to ask, what's a mortgage? What kind of English is Nancy and her guest speaking this morning? What is a mortgage? Then what is a mortgage bank? Because I also think the culture has not been there, or is not there in Nigeria. So people don't even think they are mortgage banks, so to speak. Or I want to say a large percentage of people. So what's a mortgage and what is a mortgage bank? So,
well, mortgage is technically putting a property down, using it to back up the fund you don't have. When we give you a mortgage, we'll take the property as security for it. Not until you finish payment for these houses before the right of ownership reverts back to you. But when you contracted a mortgage, the right of ownership of that property is still with the mortgage bank until you finish paying before it reverted back to you.
Okay, so in essence, what you're saying that mortgage is a loan in which property is used as a collateral.
Correct.
Isn't it?
That is it.
So mortgage is a loan in which property is used as a collateral.
That's why we call it mortgage loan.
Mortgage loan.
Yes.
Okay, so mortgage bank is a bank that deals with all of this.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Okay.
It's a specialized bank that focuses only on giving out loans for people to buy their homes.
Their homes. Okay, talk to me. Anyway, I'm really going very elementary, and pardon me for that.
No problem.
We'll come back to the more technical and more secondary issues, but I'll try to make those secondary issues as primary as possible so that our viewers can understand. Talk to me now for someone that is watching and that wants to say, okay, what Mr. Banjo is saying is quite interesting. How can I get a loan to buy a house? Let's say I earn 50,000 naira a month. Is it possible to own a house? That's one. And how does it work? Can I come to a mortgage bank such as yours? And what do I do? Someone that is confused right now and listening and wants to...
Okay. Frankly speaking, it will be quite difficult for somebody earning 50,000 naira a month to own a home.
Okay, we'll come to
through
that.
mortgage.
Yeah, yeah.
But as you said earlier, many people don't know that mortgage exists in Nigeria. Mortgage does exist. At least for the past 15 years, we've been able to give out loans to over 3,000 Nigerians. And when you extrapolate this, we're talking about, if you look at average of 5 or 6 per family, so we've been able to do maybe like 18,000 people, you know. So it's growing gradually. The culture has not been there, has been an issue, but we are growing the culture gradually now. And you know what? If you want to eradicate corruption, really, mortgage has to be effective and has to be functional. Many people go into, I'm not playing advocate for them, but many people go into corruption because of fear of unknown. Many years ago, you see many people, retiring after 36 years of hard labor without the capacity to own a home. So many people will look at it that any advantage that comes, I need to secure my future. But once mortgage becomes the order of the day, as soon as you get a job, you finish school, you get a job, you start thinking about owning your own home. The issue of where would I be when I retire will not be there again. And that will drastically reduce corruption. That is why mortgage is like a home trade everywhere in advanced economy.
So let's go back to what you said earlier. Why will it be difficult for someone that earns 50,000 naira to own a home when 50,000 naira is even above minimum wage? For me, there's a problem in what you just said. If someone that earns 50,000 naira, it will be difficult to get a home. Then how about someone that earns a minimum wage of 30,000 naira a month that is quite stable, that is paid by the government, so to speak, as it were, although state governments are also owing salaries and all of that. That's a serious problem. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm saying.
I understand you perfectly.
You understand? Yeah,
I understand
you understand. That means we've not started though. That means there's a problem.
You know, we just have to take a step at a time. You understand? You are quite right. The area of big gap in home ownership is at the base, okay? And that is area where subsidy is needed. Without subsidy, it will be difficult for whoever is earning 50,000 naira per month to access a mortgage to be able to buy a home. Because what the law says is that any employees must not spend more than 33% of his salary of his net income on financing a home. So if you look at 33% of 50,000 naira, you're talking about 22,000 naira. Unless you want to buy a house of 1 million naira or 500,000 naira, he cannot. Even if he has to pay for it for over 30 years, he will not be able to do that. Considering even the interest rate in the market now, double-digit interest rates, it's an issue as well. And I think that is why government is trying to see how to crash down the interest rate on mortgage finance in Nigeria.
How do we solve that? Because a lot of people are poor in Nigeria. About 98 million of us are poor in Nigeria.
Do you count yourself?
I'm not. Nigeria, number one, is perhaps what I'll call a lower middle class country, so to speak. Dr. Obaleye. Anyway, let me put that aside. Okay. We have a lot of poor people in the country, isn't it? And they need houses to stay.
Yeah.
You go to other climes, you see even small cottage homes, or what they call, is it council homes or something?
Yes.
Just one room and all of that. Even if it's one room self-contained, as it were. What will it take to house that cadre of people, especially even people that earn minimum wage? Because even if you have a house of 1 million or 2 million naira, just like you said, with this calculation, how long will it take for them to make it? And would you even get a house of 1 million, 2 million? Except some people will say, give me 2 million naira, I will build a house in somewhere. Perhaps in the slums,
You know, at this age, the kind of house we'll be talking about should be functional houses. Not those houses that in the next 5 to 10 years will be turned to slums, which you don't think is even good for human beings to live in. So we're talking about functional houses. There are houses that has good infrastructure in place, drainage system, lighting, and all those basic infrastructure they are in there. And one developer has to be the one to expend this cost. They have to recoup their money, so they have to put it on the cost, on the price of the house. So it will be outside the reach of poor people unless there's a subsidy for them to get into that. Without subsidy. But at the same time, it has been tested that if you can save 35,000 naira to 40,000 naira every month from your salary, you can own a home.
You can own a home.
Yeah.
Can they own a home with you? Someone that can save 35, 40,000. I know where I'm going to, and I really want, this program at least for, even if it's one person to take away something. Can they own a home with you with the 35,000 naira savings or 40,000 naira? Because I see my cameramen are even so interested in this. One of them is really looking at me. Perhaps after you should speak to Dr. Obaleye.
Let me clarify my role as a mortgage banker. We are different from developer who develop houses. What we do is to give people loan to buy the houses. So it depends on the cost of the properties you want to buy. So I can't say that if you come to Infinity, if you can afford 30,000 naira every month, I can give you a home. We can look to most of our real estate developers who are customers and see which part of this property you can own. We have developers that deals with social housing. We have those ones that deals with medium income earner and the high income earner. We can look through them and see where you can belong there. And again, we can equally assist with different kind of funding as well. Like if you're a contributor to national housing funds as well, you can get that one at 6%, which is the cheapest you can get in the economy for now. And that will give you, in your repayment, that will give you more than 40% rebates on the repayments. Okay,
but I think first and foremost is to open an account, isn't it?
Yes, first you open an account.
With a mortgage bank.
It's not even open an account. You discuss with us what your plans are. They will be able to put you on a proper pedestal that will make you to realize your goal.
That's to guide you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move over to some other, I don't want to say technical, but I will make them as primary as possible. Let's talk about the circular that was issued by the Central Bank on the 5th of September, guides to charges by banks and other financial institutions in Nigeria, removal of interest rate and cap in respect of Part 2, Section 2.1.3. Let me also, I think the Central Bank in 2007 issued a guide to charges by banks and other financial institutions to moderate charges on various products and services offered by banks and other financial institutions which you're part of. Talk to me about this circular, really.
Well, in 2017, MPR was brought into a tariff as a basis for determining the interest rates for mortgage bank, which was actually wrong. Because if you go academic way, if you study mortgage, you will see that mortgage can be contracted either fixed rate mortgage or variable adjustable rate mortgage. If it is fixed rate mortgage like national housing funds, the rate is 6%. If you cut the mortgage for 30 years, throughout the 30 years, it's 6% you're going to pay. Okay. If Federal Mortgage Bank reviews its interest upward, it will not affect those ones that has already been contracted. It will pass through the tenor. It is the new one that will be affected. So you cannot benchmark it by MPR. MPR changes, is volatile. It changes every quarter when the MPC holds their meeting. And you cannot contract a mortgage loan for 30 years through that. You will just be changing the prices, the goalposts every time. It is not done like that anywhere in the world. No. What CBN tries to do is to benchmark international best practice in respect to mortgage finance worldwide. And again, there are a lot of initiatives that are coming on. If you, like now, MPR is about 13.5%. What you are saying now is that if you leave it, the mortgage bank can lend at 18.5%. Now, there are many of us that were lending less than that now. And this created fears among people, but they should have nothing to fear about because we are getting into the regime where interest rate in mortgage will be is coming down gradually. We in mortgage sector, interest rate is a problem for us. The high interest is a problem for us because it limits the volume of mortgage we can create, because affordability is a problem. People don't have enough. Then with high interest rates, it be a more problem. So we are interested in getting funding or incentives that will bring down the interest rate. Any mortgage bank that goes outside the markets, you will lose customer and you will not be anywhere. So many incentives is coming up from the regulator that will bring down the interest rate. There's interest drawback that is coming up, which is equally going to impact positively on mortgage finance in Nigeria. But if MPR is used as basis, it will be difficult for CBN to go below MPR. And I don't think, all things being equal, MPR can go below inflation rates. So we are looking...
Because inflation rate is about 11%.
It's about 11% now.
Yes.
But we are looking at, in the next 1 year or before, we are looking at mortgage finance in Nigeria to be below 10%.
So are you saying that perhaps removing the cap it will cost the market to determine the interest rate? Is that what you're saying?
That is what how mortgage is financed. How mortgage finance is operates everywhere in the world. You index your cost of fund if you cut adjustable or variable mortgage. But if it is fixed mortgage, if tomorrow the interest rate goes up and you cut a fixed mortgage already, the mortgagor is gaining from it. But if the interest rates come low and you cut a fixed rate mortgage, what you can do is to refinance your mortgages and you benefit from that as well.
How about, what would you say to those that say that the implication of this is to kill the mortgage industry? What would you say to them?
It can never kill the mortgage industry. It will rather make them to be better.
Because we already have a housing deficit of about 17 to 18 million houses. So it depends on even who you are listening to, but we have a housing deficit in the millions. Will that also help reduce the housing deficit?
Definitely. Once the interest rate on mortgage comes down, then you have more people entering the affordability cycle. Then more mortgages will be created. Then the gap will be closed gradually.
What would you say perhaps is the greatest challenge that is facing the mortgage industry which you practice? Because, you know, in housing, we have even the mortgage, we have real estate, we have different, what would you say is the greatest challenge facing the mortgage industry?
Affordability is the greatest challenge facing us. That's the truth.
Affordability of
Affordability by the consumers.
Okay.
The mortgage interest rate is too high, and that reduces the number of people that can enter the affordability cycle. So everything has to be done to bring the interest rate down. Okay. Then two, the foreclosure law is an issue with us, and many things are being done in that perspective. Not until we can close up issues, litigations on housing or mortgage disputes timely before we can de-risk the market. And that is embedded in foreclosure law. Once that one is done, every mortgage bankers or any mortgage finance houses will be interested in lending to that market. Now the market is considered very risky. Even when you look at the rental law too, things has to be done on rental law.
What do you think should be done? Well,
there has to be law that regulates defaults.
Okay.
There has to be law to regulate default, and there has to be law to put ceilings on the rental cost as well. We just have to be very, very practical as well. And we're in a situation where many people invest in houses not to live there, but for means of investment, believing that the inflow from the renter they will get will be used for to meet certain exigencies, as the case may be. But when tenants enter the house, pay for 1 year, and refuses to pay,
then they
you go to court. You spend another 4 or 5 years there. Nothing is done.
Still in that house.
They are still in that house. At the end of the day, they pack out and you do nothing. So you discourage investment in real estate.
So that means you're saying that there should be a law to avoid defaults.
Yeah, there should be a law to avoid default. If you don't pay your rent, you go out.
You also mentioned earlier something to be done around rental cost. What do you think should be done? That's like you said, a ceiling?
Yeah,
around?
you know, my own perspective, I really believe that the Federal Housing Authority, all the agencies of government relating to housing, they should have nothing really to do with direct construction, direct building. They should put out the policies and the law that will regulate the housing market. You understand? Give us areas where you can build, areas where you cannot build, the kind of houses you can build, all those things that will be self-sustaining. Okay. Instead of them going to direct construction, leave people with red hand to be building. Whatever housing initiative you have, whatever subsidy you want to give, you can give it to the market through that medium rather than direct building. Because if you are building directly, you will compromise one way or the other. If you want to buy houses from even government now, you discover that the rates is almost comparable with those in private sector. You understand? So once government is not building directly, they will be able to legislate on prices. That is the truth.
So there should be a regulator.
It can regulate the prices.
And not be an operator and a regulator.
And a regulator at the same time.
You know, I was speaking to, I spoke about real estate last week, and I spoke with one of my guests here in the studio, and he did tell me that. He also mentioned something like this, that why would government really just go building houses everywhere, and in terms of, okay, and they don't even finish building it. They'll be like, okay, we want to construct 500 houses, and they construct all of them at foundation level. They've not even completed any. Why not even just say, okay, we are constructing, even if it's 200, but start from beginning and end it. You also mentioned a lot of things that can be done. I'm curious, if the mortgage industry will grow in Nigeria based on, number one, our purchasing power is very low.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Purchasing power is very low. We have a lot of poor people amongst us.
Yeah.
And number two, okay, just answer the number one first.
You know, as I said earlier, housing is the biggest investment in every household expenditure item. It needs a lot of planning. Government has to make sure there are policies that encourage this planning, that if you plan to own a home in the next 5 years with your salary, you'll be able to afford it. Government should be able to have policies that create options for people to have houses. Then there should be job, You know, the rate of unemployment is high. So definitely you don't expect a rapid close in the housing gap. How those people without job, how are they going to get money to finance mortgage, even if they have to cut mortgage to get a house? So it is not an isolated matter, really. It's something that has to do with economic and macroeconomic indices. But by and large, where we were about 3-4 years ago is not where we are now. We are moving up the ladder gradually. Before now, a major headache was long-term funding. But 4-5 years back, you can only get mortgage for 5 years, which I don't think that is mortgage. But now we are giving out mortgage for 15, 20, 25 years, even with our own fund, because we have Nigeria Mortgage Financing Company.
Yes, I was coming to that,
NMRC, that refinances.
Which is the state-backed guarantor.
Yes,
yeah.
that refinances our mortgage. What we need to do is to first originate that mortgage, let it ride for 6 months in our books before we refinance, with them. So if we create 1 billion naira worth of mortgages now, we can refinance that 1 billion naira with them in 6 months. So you have an expectation that, okay, this money I'm spending now, I will get it back in 6 months. You can look for other means of getting money to originate if you don't have enough to originate. Even we have what we call Mortgage Warehousing Company Limited, which is the brainchild of the Mortgage Bank Association of Nigeria, which equally source funds for us to originate the mortgages in the first instance before we translate it to NMRC after 6 months. So funding issue, as the problem of funding is now drastically reduced, but we're still content with some cost, which is the double-digit interest rate on mortgage. Is not, it won't cut it. That is the truth. So as you said, our purchasing power is low.
It's very low, yeah.
If the interest rate is high, then many people will not be able to enter the affordability.
So that means perhaps we've not addressed the fundamental challenge of addressing the housing deficit in Nigeria, so to speak, because even if we're having policies here and there. The fundamental thing or the structural thing there is that a lot of Nigerians are poor.
Yeah.
A lot of Nigerians cannot even afford 3 square meals.
Yeah.
A lot of Nigerians live below the poverty line.
Yeah.
And for the minimum wage people that earn about 30,000 naira a month, which is about $1,000 a year. That's what a minimum wage person. I did the analysis earlier this year. So a Nigerian worker earns $1,000 a year at 360 at 1,000 naira. Do you think that that foundation would not even affect the growth of this? Because when you go to other climes, you can actually pay. You'll be living in a house and you pay for it for over 20, 25 years.
Yes. You see, we have to start from somewhere. As I said, where we were 4 or 5 years ago is different from where we are now.
But the somewhere we are starting, is it not cosmetics? Is it not just like as I'm made up this morning, just put foundation and all of that? Instead of, Dr. Banjo, you understand what I mean?
Yes, I'm an operator.
Yes, so perhaps the growth will not be that
significant.
Fast, yes.
Yes, that's why I said we just have to be moving gradually. You understand? It's just like you come to Nigeria and you say you want to wipe away completely corruption in 1 year. Your government will collapse. That's the truth. So you have to start gradually. We've started. I told you, we've given out mortgages for homes for about 36,000 people. 36,000 Nigerians. Many other mortgage banks have done that. Even commercial bank too, they give mortgage loans. They've done that as well. So gradually, this thing will spread to every other part.
What category of people do you give mortgages to?
All category of people.
Including this low income.
Formal sector, informal sector. Even now we are working on Nigerian diaspora as well. Because we have underwriting standard for formal sector, for informal sector, and for Nigerian diaspora. Even we are working on methodology for the non-interest mortgage finance as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which is also very key.
Yeah.
Because we also have some the non-interest bank in Nigeria, non-interest finance.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about this cashless policy a bit. Let's bring it back. You're giving me a little smile. You know where I'm going to. So talk to me about the cashless policy, and is there any...
Okay, the circular that came out from CBN recently. Well,
that caused a lot of hoopla.
Well, you know, when we are cashless, movement of money can be tracked and corruption can be discouraged. I think that is the policy objective of government. I don't have anything against it. But we have a lot of unbanked Nigeria. We are working towards attracting them so that we can have 90% of working class to be in the banking sector in Nigeria. When we are charging them on deposits, then we are sending them away. That is my issue. Okay. Withdrawal, you can put it there. But on deposits, we should not. It should not attract any form of charge at all. And again...
Withdrawal, that's deposits above a certain limit.
Above, yeah. And again, government is driving revenue anyhow. We should be wary of the impact on production. We should be wary of the impact on real sector. If we are not wary of that, we just be killing those businesses gradually with a lot of charges. So when we are putting in place policy for certain objectives, we should synthesize them and look at it. What is the pro and con of this?
You know, I spoke to central bank officials on this. In fact, the next day that they brought out that statement, they were here on the program. And they did mention, which I remember vividly, and listen, I see that the people that are shouting these things, or the people that you think will be affected, they don't have up to that 500,000. That from their own data, many Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians do not have up to 500,000 naira in their accounts. So it may not affect those people. So if you can, do you understand what I mean?
I do,
Dr. Banjo? Yeah. So,
well, it's very, very possible. If you're looking at those people at the base of the ladder, it will be hard to find anybody that can have like 500,000 naira in their accounts. It does not belong to that ladder. It should have moved up. But we have a lot of small petty traders now that even their revenue daily can get to like 100, 200 before they report chases. They need to have a means of banking. But if you are now charging them,
because the charge is above the 500,000. So let's say you want to deposit 600, you don't pay on the 500. The charge comes on the
whatever excess of that. Yes.
All right. If you have questions for Dr. Obaleye, please do. I'm already seeing some comments. Let me read those comments very quickly. Remy Adeleke on Twitter says, Nancy, just a reflection of how wonderful our elite and the so-called labor are by even contemplating 30,000 naira as minimum wage. With 30K minimum, no civil servant can afford a shelter. So where are we? I think you've answered that question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Austin Wachuku is saying, your guest is simply awesome. He is well-dressed, calm, and articulate, and displayed his erudite knowledge on the subject matter. That's a compliment for me.
Thank you, Austin.
All right, keep those comments coming. My guest on the show told me last week, too, when I was talking about real estate, that people in the rural areas don't complain of there are no houses. There's those of us in the urban centers. Yeah,
to some large extent, that is true. People in the rural area, they live together. You will see 20 people living in a house that shouldn't be more for just 4 or 5 people that are not hygienic, so to say. But in this modern age, we should have gotten to a stage where most of the old houses are now giving a facelift, rebuilding them, reconstructing them to fit into the modern, modern structure. When you fly in from Abuja to Lagos and you see the landscape, you will see it in disarray. But go to other country, you see what happened. You see well-arranged, set out, building. So we should be getting to that stage now. Yes, anywhere in the world, the cities, they have the largest, gap in housing delivery because they are congested. People are moving from rural to urban. So that migrations equally will leave some spaces for them at the rural area while burdened by the cities.
When you just talk about landscape, what came to my mind is what is our Nigerianized architectural landscape? You go to other countries, you see houses built according to culture and all of that. But here, it seems everything is just scattered. That's an issue for another day.
That is the area the Federal Housing Authority is supposed to focus on. Giving us
should be a standard.
Yeah, giving us what is our standard.
Yes, what is a standard? You go to, anyway, that's a show for another day. Thank you very much, Dr. Obaleye.
It's my pleasure to
be here. For coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, I've been speaking with Dr. Banjo Obaleye, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Infinity Trust Mortgage Bank. PLC, in fact, is listed on the exchange. They are still there.